The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed, and this particular episode is one of our deep dive episodes. We're going to dive deep into DEX'S Diner of Wisdom, and I'm excited to go to there. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok, and this episode has been 6 years in the making for us. Everything we've done before this on ForceCenter has led to this moment. I can't.
This is destiny, isn't it?
Destiny.
We've finally decided to embrace our destiny. We will get into exactly what this is. This is one of our scene-by-scene episodes. We've been doing a lot of these where we just really examine everything about a scene, the characters, the ideas, but also like the environment and the music and all that stuff. And we're really happy to take that level of examination to DEX'S Diner. But first, we want to let you know, as always, that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. This week, we are recommending Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. It is another story in which I believe Obi-Wan Kenobi eats or drinks something. I don't remember the details, but it's a great Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn story, so I'm sure there's some dining somewhere in it. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for a free audiobook. And Ken, we have another offer.
We are not done. We are not done yet. We have an offer from the fine folks at Inside Editions, publisher of a ton of great Star Wars books and more. They're offering 35% off across their entire website with a special ForceCenter code. To get your discount, enter the coupon code FC35 or visit the website with this link, insideeditions.com/discount/FC35. I just did that myself last week, and it worked. This week, we're recommending the Inside Editions book, Star Wars Galactic Baking. It is coming out next week, May 4th, and I'm already seeing people with it in their hands. I have it. Do you want R2-D2 ice cream cake? Then you want to get this book because you can learn how to make it yourself. It is a great book, a lot of fun, and helps celebrate all aspects of Star Wars in your desserts. Check it out with the code FC35.
Yeah, it's a great little book. I'm having fun, if not cooking from it yet, definitely looking at it and dreaming of making a huge mess in my kitchen. So looking forward to that. Let's dive in, Ken, to DEX'S Diner of Wisdom. As I said, we've been breaking down these big scenes in Star Wars and just sort of started the tradition of coming up with fun names for them. So we've discussed Rey's Cave of Mirrors, Dooku's Cell of Half-Truths, Palpatine's Box of Lies, Obi-Wan's Hut of Exposition, Palpatine's Lab of Horrors, Luke and Vader's Walkway of Doubt, Kenobi's Campfire of Resolution, that's from Rebels, and now from Attack of the Clones, we are discussing DEX'S Diner of Wisdom. It's a wide variety, but now as I'm seeing it, I'm seeing my and perhaps our biases coming out. It's a lot of Palpatine and Obi-Wan. How did that happen?
Oh, man, I didn't really think about that. I mean, hey, you know what? It is what it is. There's a lot of scenes in Star Wars, but we'll get to all characters. But those are some of the juicier moments.
That's right. We're being honest. This particular scene is about 3 minutes long. It's about 3 minutes of very controversial 50s diner aesthetic, strong opinions, and Raymond Chandler-esque gumshoe legwork. It is the Star Wars take on diners, droids, and detectives.
By the way, that's your best work, sir. That's your best work of all time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Diners, droids, and detectives. We would all watch that on Disney Plus. I know
I'd go to Flavor Town for that show. Yes.
So this scene, I would say, Ken, is not as central to Star Wars mythos and philosophy as some of the other scenes that we've discussed. But this scene itself is discussed a lot because I think fans seem to love it or hate it. So let's start there. Do you think that's a fair statement? Do you think fans love it or hate it? Did you hate it back in the day? Do you love it now? Take me into the love-hate idea of this diner scene.
I mean, I've got friends in my life right now who might listen to this episode and text me rude things. And shout out to Alex at Black Series Rebels. Yes, for You say it's not key to Star Wars mythos and philosophy as far as the other scenes we've covered. Yeah, total true statement. But this might be still one of the more talked about scenes in Star Wars. This comes up a lot.
It
And
does.
I've grown to love it, but we're going to talk about where I started with that. And even right now, our friend Brian Ward designed like an exclusive poster offer on my Patreon page. That's me instead of Obi-Wan and Dex, just having a great time sitting down at the diner. It's one of my, I got it hanging in my studio here. And then our friend Brian Ward as well. By the way, Brian Ward is a genius. I just bought one of his TeePublic shirts, which is a Dexter's Diner shirt. I
Oh,
I love this scene. I love this character. I love it unironically and ironically. And I don't know which came first. And we're going to talk about that in a second. So, but that said, I've also found that I don't even try to defend this scene. I don't care to defend it anymore because I love it so much and the love is real. But yes, this comes up a lot. This absolutely comes up a lot. Some friends of ours or people in the business are just, hey, you think Star Wars is great, but don't forget they had a 50s diner in the movie.
yeah. So we'll dive into a little bit of why we think that is, of what's that tension there. But I am curious about your personal experience back in the far distant year of 2002, when young Ken Napzok was sitting in a theater, and you realized as soon as we start going to the diner, it's a 50s space diner. Did you have a strong judgment yourself back in the day?
I really wish that I was podcasting back then, so I would have I would have a record. I remember a lot of my thoughts on Phantom Menace, Revenge of the Sith, Attack the Clones. I remember a lot about it. I've told some of the stories before the movie. Me and my friend arguing over the Jedi, whether they're the actual maybe the bad guys of the galaxy, and all those those conversations I've had before. I don't remember specifically, but that makes me think I did not have a strong negative reaction to it. I really didn't. I of all the things in that movie, and there's some things I don't like in Attack the Clones, and some of the 3PO humor always stands out to me as something I don't enjoy that much. This didn't stand out, and a lot of it. We're going to talk about the late performer that voiced Dexter. I liked the character. Was it silly? Was it a little stupid? Pulling up his pants and everything. Yeah, I guess, but I don't remember coming out of the theater and going, of all the things in the movie, I definitely didn't like it. Part of it might have been because George Lucas, American Graffiti, and also one of my favorite places in Los Angeles, and was somewhere I went regularly back in 2002, was Mel's Diner. And there's 3 locations, but the one on Sunset, down the street from the Comedy Store. It's one of my favorite spots. And you go in there, there's pictures of American Graffiti and George Lucas all in there. And Dexter's Diner is absolutely that. And so you walk in, it just made sense to me. I was like, yeah, this is George, man. This is George having fun. So I don't recall having an overly negative opinion back then.
Yeah, and this is definitely clearly American Graffiti on his mind with the car, the airspeeder
Right.
that Anakin steals, matching one of the cars from American Graffiti.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Harrison
think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Harrison Ford. It's Bob Falsa.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Bob Falfa.
Yeah.
Which I'm still waiting for a Star Wars character named Falfa Bob to pop up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember because there's this great, tension in the prequel era as Attack of the Clones came out. Is it going to get a little darker? Are we going to kind of dive into a little bit more of who the characters are? How much of the kind of silly stuff, the younger sense of humor are we going to get, or how much of those kind of jokes that are from the real world, like Jar Jar saying "excuse me"? There's so much tension for that. As I was sitting down to watch this at a midnight showing, and I loved Attack the Clones at that midnight showing, while also recognizing a lot of the problems, and would make jokes about them and all that. But I remember as we entered Dex's Diner thinking, "Oh no, it's a 50s diner," and I was already at that point of like, it's probably too earthy for me, but also knowing that was going to be a thing, right? And then even in my very first viewing at that midnight showing, all that went away, and I did not give a damn because I loved so much what else was going on in the scene. And that was just like background noise, that it was going to be a thing that people felt strongly about. What I loved about it so much, and have only come to love it more, is this peek into Obi-Wan's day-to-day life.
Yeah.
There's so much in Attack the Clones that filled out big Star Wars mythology about Boba Fett, and finally seeing the clones of the Clone Wars, and oh, look at their armor, it's this mix of Boba Fett and the clones, and oh wow, here's this chain of Padawans and masters, from Yoda to Dooku to Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan. All this great stuff. Oh, Anakin's mother died in his first
Mm,
murderous act as a Tusken Raiders. All this stuff that's like canon with a capital C, capital M mythology. But what how Attack of the Clones fleshed out Star Wars for me was seeing the Jedi Archives,
mm,
seeing where Obi-Wan might go for a drink and a bite and some information and some, debate with an
yeah.
old pal. It was just so much fleshing out their day-to-day lives that I love seeing that because I would sit and wonder, like, what is Obi-Wan's life like? What
Mhm.
does he do when he's not on a mission, when he is not being shot at or lectured by the Jedi Council? What is he up to? And this was not only a peek into who Obi-Wan was, how he conducted himself when he wasn't on an actual immediate danger adventure, but also this is what really sets the tone for Obi-Wan as private detective. This is so pulling from detective and film noir. There's a lot of images in Attack of the Clones that are directly film noir, but this is very, very specifically like Raymond Chandler, Philip Marlowe of, hey, I got somebody on the other side of town who maybe people will judge, do a quick look. He's just a greasy spoon, diner owner chef. He doesn't know anything, but I know he's a source for real information. And that's where I get the first piece of the puzzle. Like I've been a big fan. I've read a lot of Raymond Chandler and a lot of the detective books of that era, and I just loved that mashup with Star Wars, and it made perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and going back to one of our, like, early Star Wars ranked, episodes we did, like, best reasons to rewatch the prequels. Groundbreaking breaking stuff back in 2015, 2016, kids. And this is one of the things you and I discussed, not only just the scene, but just the idea of Kenobi out and about, Kenobi the private investigator, Kenobi, just kind of figuring things out, which is something that pops up a lot in the Clone Wars animated series, and I think just part of Kenobi's an interesting part of Kenobi's character to me. So that all kind of worked, and above all, for me, going back 2002, where I very like you said, I'd make the jokes about this stuff too. It was very hard for me to make fun of this scene because I Dex I don't know if the tech stands the test of time. It was groundbreaking at the time, and maybe you could put a fresh coat of paint on that tech now. But he's so charming to me.
Yes.
I know that guy. I've met that guy, or we've all seen that character in a movie, and I just it all worked for me. That just and it all kind of began with his mustache.
Yeah, for the criticism that the prequels or Attack of the Clones in particular can feel wooden in the acting style, like there's nothing wooden about Dexter Jettster, right?
Might be the best actor in the series.
Watto's got a great moment, some great
Yeah.
moments in Attack of the Clones as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I really loved it because of my deep connection to Obi-Wan and to kind of
Mhm.
this noir perspective. But I've also really I think you were joking at the top that this is 6 years
Yeah,
to
yeah,
build to this. Is there's a lot of interesting tidbits in the scene. It's a very short scene, but
yeah.
almost every line has something that's really interesting to look at and discuss. So I think that has only made me like this scene more.
Well, yeah, definitely joking, and definitely, as you know, we're speaking the truth here of just the way I take in and view Star Wars has grown and matured over the last few years. You've been able to discover new things as well as we dig in, and this is actually part of the fun. It's a fun challenge. I don't think there's a ton of throwaway scenes in Star Wars films. I really don't.
No.
I think they're all there and they all serve a purpose, and some hit more than others, and some are stand the test of time more than others. Totally. But this was, yeah, jokes aside, but also in truth in every joke, I love that we finally get to turn our attention to the scene we talk about so much.
Yeah, I that's the thing I've been thinking a lot about with the prequels in particular, with all of the discussion and debate about them over the years. Is everything is subjective. You can dislike every single choice that George Lucas made, but I think I have utter respect for it was a choice. There's
Yeah, yeah.
nothing random. He made every choice, and he made them for reasons. Is what I feel as a viewer, and I'm
It
excited to get into it.
it's not like George got to set and was like, Wait, is this a 50s diner? Oh, all right, let's shoot it.
All right. This is what was available today on the back lot, the Space 50s diner. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So what we like to do with these scene by scene episodes is review what's going on leading into the scene as well. So here's a quick summary, Ken. 2 attempts have been made on the life of Senator Padme Amidala, who is currently leading the opposition to the Military Creation Act. She opposes the Republic raising an army to respond to the threat of the separatists. She prefers negotiation and believes if you show a fist to the galaxy, you'll get a fist back. Obi-Wan and Anakin were assigned to guard Padme. And Obi-Wan argues with Anakin in front of Padme, telling him that finding out the identity of her assassin was not the mission. They're just there to protect her. And yet, Obi-Wan throws himself out of Padme's bedroom window to pursue the assassins. This leads the Jedi to Zam Wesell, who is killed with a toxic dart. The Jedi Council then gives Obi-Wan the official assignment to play detective and find out who is trying to assassinate Padme and why. In his pursuit of knowledge, Obi-Wan turns to his old friend Dexter Jettster. So that's what's going on to set up this scene. Ken, what do you think Obi-Wan is feeling about this mission as this scene begins? Is he happy to be on it? Is it important to him? Is it just another mission? What do you imagine?
He is thrilled. You see it in his face a bit. Not even before the Dexter scene, because it's the goodbye scene. You got was it Rose Byrne as
Dorme?
Dorme, thank you. That whole scene, he's sending Anakin off, which maybe looking back, he should question what, Palpatine was like, maybe Anakin can go hang out with her. Especially, in canon now, we know Obi-Wan's like, Satine. That didn't work out. But that aside, we didn't know that story existed yet. I think he's excited. I think he's thrilled. Kenobi has what I sometimes refer to as that first responder blood, where you're sitting around on a boring Tuesday going, man, I hope a car explodes because I want to go run to it, because that's why I chose this job, right? That's why I'm here. And I think this is something he enjoys. And I think this is total headcanon, by the way. I'm not digging into stuff here, but I think in his mind he's like, I cannot wait to go to Dex. And he might the information on the saber dart might not have already been, he's already kind of working on things, but I think he's excited.
Yeah, no, I like this a lot. That scene beforehand really does set up that he's worried about Anakin. A couple scenes, he talks to Yoda and Mace about it, and then he's got that scene with Typho where like I'd be more worried about what she's gonna do. Paraphrasing there. So I think he is. I think he's concerned about Anakin, but I think he's trying to follow Qui-Gon's wisdom to keep his mind on the now, the present, the living force. I think this is also headcanon, right? He went straight from Padawan to Jedi Knight to immediately training Anakin, and he didn't have a lot of time to be a knight who just went and did their missions.
Yeah.
And it's interesting question in canon of like, how many missions has he been on just by himself, or is Anakin always with him?
Right.
I imagine he's gone on a few, but I wonder if this is like he is concerned about Anakin, but he's trying to be a Jedi about it, but he is happy to have a mission by himself to take care of. And I think there's a real energy in this film and in his whole detective job here that he is a Jedi who believes in the Order, questions them from time to time, but in general believes the Council is wise and trying to do the right thing, and he's happy to get his orders and go do them. And I think there is this great energy of I just want to do my job. And my job is finding out the truth. And I do want to find out the truth. I'm not thrilled about the excitement. I don't want to be in any space battles. I'm happy to go talk to Dex. I just want to get this done. And it's really interesting also for me to think about what he thinks his plot is. There's this that great conversation earlier when Padme is being used as bait, and Zam Wesell's cahoons are in the bedroom, and Obi-Wan is kind of lecturing Anakin about politicians, and whether to trust them. And so I think there is this possibility in Obi-Wan's mind when he's starting out on this mission of like, Padme is a bold senator, and she's got a lot of history even at her young age, and there's a lot of people who might want to kill her. This is just kind of some light political intrigue. And the more he uncovers, it's this grand scope, and he discovers Dooku's involvement, and it becomes more personal. But I like to think at this point he's just like, I'm gonna find some random person she's pissed off.
It's
not
a
uncover a
Tuesday.
galactic plot.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday. First of all, I love you've kind of painted Obi-Wan as having some of that dad on a conference weekend energy of like the kids are gone. I love the wife, but it's me and some buffet food and a hotel. This is great. Let's get to it. I haven't done this in years, right? And I could see the Obi-Wan going, okay, the kid Anakin's out. I got a job to do. This is great. Me and the road. Me and the road.
Yep, just me and my robe and my road. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. So let's dig into the scene from there, Ken.
Mhm.
We get the establishing shots of a sunny day on an upper level of Coruscant in the Cocoa Town district, which used to be a prosperous industrial district, but it's fallen on some harder times. Then we see the diner itself. It's an almost train car like box
Yeah.
of chrome with crimson highlights and a neon sign in the window. We see inside, it's a close up of Flo, or WA7, as she yells, "Someone to see ya, honey," Jedi by the looks of him. And the camera whips across the diner. We see red leather booths, a bar with red stools, and into the circular window into the kitchen. We see chef and owner Dexter Jettster in a grubby white cook's uniform, and server Hermione Bagua, a blonde woman in a blue dress with gold hoop earrings, perhaps the most aggressively real-world looking character in all of Star Wars. So those are our opening moments where we see the diner in its vibe. Let's discuss the whole diner vibe. Is it too Earth-like? Why or why not? Why do you think the 50s diner is such a negative for some fans?
I mean, look, I'll say, yes, it is. It is too Earth-like for many folks. It is so direct. It is so, again, American graffiti. I mean, you're describing the interior of Mel's Drive-In on Sunset, like, or any location. Like, you're literally describing it, and we've all seen it. It's any diner in anywhere USA, right? So yeah, is it too Earth-like? Yeah, but number one, the spirit of whimsy, but two, I go back to the cantina. Like, we all got introduced to a bar with jazz musicians jamming, kid asking for a drink, a bar fight. That is so normal. Take away the aliens. It's a bar scene
Yeah, and I mean,
from down the street.
it has some physical similarities to Rick's bar in Casablanca. Um,
Yes.
I just think that people who grew up with it were not experts on what bars look like all across the world, so it felt a little bit more alien.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, so again, like I don't defend a lot of that. I don't want to even spend the time and energy out in the public defending George's choice to do it. But I think it represents a lot of it immediately evokes the image of where you go to hang out, where everybody knows your name, where, Obi-Wan hasn't been there in a while, which is why Flo's like, hey, someone's here, but he's like, Obi-Wan. Who knows when, WA7 started her shift there or something. But that immediately evokes just like, hey, this is a place you go that's comfortable and safe and familiar and rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that the long-term and I think ongoing debate in Star Wars about what are elements that are too clearly Earth, so they take you out of the fantasy, is always going to be this really fascinating subjective debate, right?
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm,
and we see it as recently as things with the Last Jedi of, some people were really taken out by Poe saying "big ass door," right? That's too
mhm.
Earth-like. So
Right.
that's always just going to be a discussion of the balance of what is inspired by Earth but feels, like a galaxy far, far away, or what is just like that is too Earth-like. And
Yeah.
clearly, for a lot of people, the diner aesthetic is just too that is Earth.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know. I haven't done an actual survey. The people that I have heard be the most viscerally disliking it are people who grew up with the original trilogy, and
Yeah.
it's really fascinating to me. We did that a whole episode of a deep dive show a while back about the balance between fantasy and realism in
Mhm.
Star Wars. And the original trilogy really emphasizes the fantasy. Like, there's a government because they kind of talk about it in the background, but we spend all the time with the mythical, with the hero, with the
Mhm.
enchanted blade, basically. And that realism is kind of there running in the background, but it's not really in your face. And the
Yeah.
prequels are all about building up realism, right? It's about the much debated tax routes is how we
Yeah. Yeah.
debates about tax routes is how we kick off the entire prequel series. And I think this is just like a scene that absolutely puts that debate of fantasy versus realism under a microscope. This is a
Mhm.
place that is not only extremely Earth-like in its design, it's a place that's really adding realism to the world of Star Wars of, hey, people got to eat. Coruscant's a
Mm.
big city. This is a greasy spoon diner, and of course, a Jedi might have a contact that exists at a greasy spoon diner. It's all very, very uh, world building, and
Yeah.
and that all of that is gonna end up kind of tipping the scale away from ambiguous fantasy to a little bit more realism. Every detail you add brings it a little bit more into Star Wars takes place in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago, uh, but it's a real, world that functions in a lot of the ways that we would expect the real world to. But I think there's something about this that really attacks people who love the original trilogy because it took them to an unbelievable, romantic, fantastic world far away
Mhm.
with bizarre aliens. I think feel shoved out of that world by the diner.
Which is a fair feeling. I get, and I think we all have our little boundaries that can, you mentioned the big ass door. It's still not one of my favorite. I don't get hung up on it, but I get that. I think some of the scene, because it's so specific, down to the club sandwiches that he's serving that are not quite bacon and turkey. There's something else there, but they're club sandwiches.
Right, and there's like a coffee decanter that's just like, yeah, that's where you get coffee from.
Yeah, yeah, and so I get it's much, and I can look at the cantina. By the way, I can look at Aunt Peru using Tupperware from a Tupperware party in the '70s to serve blue milk. I don't hold that against anyone who doesn't like the scene. Like, I'm not saying that to be like, whatever you didn't like. Did you like blue milk? Then you should like Dexter. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is all part of what George has kind of always done. What I think gets celebrated, and that does. I think you're right to dig deep and get a little serious with it, Joseph. It drop kicks you out of the reality a little bit. When the moment you walk in and it's everything, you're like, I've been there. I don't want to feel like I've been there in Star Wars. I think that's fair. I just also think it's really fun.
Yeah. And to me, looking at it more closely, just like the design and the aesthetic, like, yeah, there's so much. There's, that little tray on the counter that is holding, so it looks like cake or pie or cookies. It spins by
Yep.
really fast. But like, there are all those details that are like, yes, this is exactly a diner, down to the accent of the droid, right?
Right.
But there's a lot of details in the design that are, spacey and different. And I don't feel like I kind of feel like I've been to that diner, but I would still pay good money to go to an actual recreation of
Yeah.
Dex's diner. But the reason I wanted to discuss that whole fantasy versus realism thing to that degree is I think it's a great example of we can so often just default to, is it good or is it bad?
Yes.
But the truth is we have strong subjective reactions to it for different reasons. And I'm much more interested in having a conversation with somebody who will say, I really love Star Wars when it is transporting me to an entirely different reality and it looks too much like Earth. Then it bugs me, because then now it's a conversation about tastes and preferences, and I can learn something about the other person rather than
Mhm.
somebody just going, Attack of the Clones is a bad movie because there's a '50s diner.
Right. And then I'd say, great, but you're also missing out on one of the greatest characters of all time in Dexter.
One of the greatest mustaches in Star Wars. Want to talk about some other details of just the aesthetic of the diner. You touched on this, but I think the diner does really evoke absolutely that location, but also the feelings that
Mhm.
different people might have about a greasy spoon diner like this. How do you think this aesthetic helps tell the story?
It's exactly, yeah. We talked about earlier, just the comfort, the place to go. But it's a place of trust, by the way, and for Obi-Wan to go there to know that not only he can get the information, but that he can talk about this. This is a Jedi going, hey, someone was they attempted to kill someone. I need to find out why. And I just love what that says about Dexter, Obi-Wan, and where he is in the story right now as he starts to uncover it, and then just the everyday life. The club sandwiches being served and eaten means these are the citizens of the galaxy, and this is what Obi-Wan is out there trying to protect, who he's trying to protect. And I think it all kind of starts with that. Is that big and grandiose for this 50s diner in Star Wars? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think when you pause and really look at it, that starts to jump out. That's part of the choice.
Yeah, I don't think it's diving too deep. I think when anything that's designed in a film, the desire and the hope is that it will evoke specific emotions. And obviously, for some people, the emotion it evoked is that's too Earth-like. I don't want it, which is fine. But for me, what it evokes is exactly what you're talking about. I think in the real world, a greasy spoon diner, especially one that's been there for a long time, is coded as being down to earth, honest, consistent, reliable. Everybody's welcome, but it's kind of there for working folks who are down to earth and reliable. So it evokes all those emotions, and it becomes this direct contrast to kind of the sanctity and hubris of the Jedi Temple, right?
There it is. Yep.
There's the deleted scene where he goes to the robots, the droids, and they say, "Oh no, this doesn't come from any specific culture." And Obi-Wan even has like, "I know who to bring this to." But even without the deleted scene, we next cut to the library.
Yeah.
Which the Jedi Archives, which I absolutely love, but we cut immediately to that clean, controlled environment and the hubris of Jocasta Nu of like if the Camino's not in the archives, then it doesn't exist. So we get this really contrast that I think Greasy Spoon provides all these feelings of down to earth, reliable, and I would also just go out on a limb and argue a little bit that I think for some people, a 50s diner can be like, there's the kind of restaurants I've been to that are like the 50s diner that are evoking sort of a 50s that never was. It's, it's the Happy Days version of the 50s, right? And it's kind of like a little bit like there can be ones that have like a cheap tourist trap, vibe of like, hey, come on and eat. We've got a picture of James Dean, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, which is also Mel's on Sunset, and I've bought all their shirts. Yes.
But I would also argue that this is in particular, the shape of it is very much like the diner in an old train car.
Yep.
In particular, like there's Carney's in Los Angeles or back in Minnesota. There's Mickey's Diner in St. Paul, and those are coded as something older. Right, because they're an older style restaurant that's living inside of these aesthetically cool, train cars or subway cars that have been chucked into the dustbin of history. But this one's clinging on is a place for people to gather and eat and have community. So there is something about even within it looking like a 50s diner. To me, it looks like this. What is to me in our real Earth world, something from the past that has been there for a long time and is clinging to existence, which gives it a different flavor.
Yeah, and I guess at this point I should disclose I love these places in the real world. Like I am, I can't tell you how many business meetings I've had at this place called Coral Cafe in Burbank, which is a 24-hour diner. I think to be a waiter there, you have to start at age 50. Not 100% true. There's a place called NoHo Diner. There's Lancers. There's Talleyrand. There's all these places around L.A. And again, I keep saying Mel's on Sunset because it is designed to be a 50 center. I love these actual diners. I go there because I feel safe. There's nothing pretentious about them. There was one time I was there at the NoHo Diner having breakfast, and a young woman was applying, and they asked her, "Why are you applying here?" Kind of like, "Hey, honey, why are you applying here?" There's a bunch of, and she's like, "Because I'm tired of working at clubs where I'm sexually harassed every day, where it's the grind, it's vanity. I just want a job. Me and my husband live around the corner, and I just want to work." And I remember thinking, yeah, that's what this is. This is a home. This is home. and it's the center of our little galaxy here. And there's regulars that come in, and hey, Merle's got his omelet, and I'm drawn towards that, and that's why I think I love this scene too. I guess I have to disclose that I'm just predisposed to diners, and a good omelet, but also just the ability to just communicate with someone who's just there to hear you.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I love going to Depar's in LA, or even this is even a little bit of like not Bob's Big Boy, but Dex's Big Boy vibe. Like Bob's Big Boy has a big counter, and it's been there forever, and is definitely evoking the past.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we like the diner. That's what that comes down to.
Yeah.
Would you rather be waited on by Flo or Hermione Bagua?
All right, this is where Ken gets weirdly real with Star Wars. At the time of this movie, Hermione Bagua, because in my 20s, I was one of those, and I'll say it, I'll call myself a sad sack who just fell in love with every waitress that said hello, because I wasn't good socially. And I was that guy at the beginning of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind when Jim Carrey's character is like, why do I fall in love with every woman that says hello? Like, that was me. And by the way, if that's you out there listening, don't be that. Okay. Don't be that. But I get it. And so there would have been a point where it would have been like, hi, Hermione. And I would have left her a 20 credit tip on a 5 credit meal. And it's, she would have taken it and gone on and lived her life as she should. But now I'm at the point where number one, both are fine, but Flo, because, Flo ain't going to mess up that much. Hermione, I'm not saying you're going to mess up, but I'm just saying Flo, I'm just there for the comfort, the professionalism, and the know-how.
Yeah, I think even if I had the opportunity to be waited on by an actual droid, I would still want to be waited on by Hermione Bagua.
Yeah.
This is just one of those, you and I go deep on Star Wars, but we always want to respect just like the fun and the silliness of Star Wars too. And we just talked for a long time about why this 50s diner is designed the way it was and the meaning of it. And we're going to get more into that. But I love that also with all of that, there can just be a total 100% Earth human, just a perfectly cast blonde woman in a blue dress with gold hoop earrings. I work here too, and that's just one of those for me. The silly fun of Star Wars. Of I know the name Hermione Bagua because I want to know the name of that character. Yeah. I want to get an opportunity to talk about this character. Of who is she? Why is she here? And I would love to be waited on her and just ask Hermione Bagua a little bit about her life.
Yeah, she's working 2 shifts to make ends meet. Life is tough on Coruscant. She's she doesn't live in a high rise. She has to probably go down a few levels. There's a story there.
Yeah. Is she going to night school for something interesting? Who knows? A little bit of fun trivia that I found on the old Wikipedia is that Flo is voiced by Australian actress Susie Porter, who also portrays Hermione Bagua in the film. And allegedly, they shot some things different ways, with Flo doing the drink delivery and having the dialogue, and Hermione herself having the dialogue, which I would love to see those outtakes.
Oh, that'd be great.
Absolutely great. So please, let's get a 6-inch Black Series Hermione Bagua action figure. And for now, move on. Let's talk about the music in this establishing scene, but it goes on throughout the scene. It's really bouncy and fun, but it's definitely got a little bit of an otherworldly vibe. To me, it's got a little bit of a techno sound with a bounce to it. Has a little bit for me vibes of Raymond Scott or Looney Tunes music, like in the calmer sections, because it's got a little bit of bounce and fun to it. How would you describe the music, Ken? And what did you think of the music that's going on in Dexter's Diner?
Well, first of all, I love the jazz because we're focused on these scenes. I don't think I focused on the music in this scene as much as as I have in the past. So it was great to kind of narrow focus on it. I loved it. I've always taken it as like that's number one. It's playing in there. There's Obi-Wan could probably drop a credit in on the table there and change the music if he wanted, and little jukebox action, and it just creates it's not just a fun. You mentioned Looney Tunes. I think that's accurate, but it's not just a fun thing. It's just it's peppy. It's there. It's life. It's moving. You got patrons coming in and out. We're gonna talk about them in a little bit. You got there's behind Dexter when he sits down. There's that lady in the black dress just kind of enjoying a lunch at the counter. She's probably gonna get back to work, and the music is just kind of, it's familiar, it's fun, but it's also busy. And this is to me a little bit of a city center, so it kind of helped set that tone.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to hear your thoughts because I admit I've never paid a ton of attention to it. I think maybe it's I've been watching stuff on Disney Plus with earbuds in, And I think sometimes I hear some things in a way I didn't fully hear them before. So I've honestly never paid a ton of attention to it. And I was like,
Right.
that's great, because it does sound exactly like music that would play in a diner, but it does still sound like Star Wars. It does sound otherworldly to me. It almost sounds like the piped in Muzak version of a Figrin and Dan in the Modal Node song. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
sound that different to Cantina music, but it sounds like the Cantina music is that's the way they play it raw and live when they might get a bottle thrown at them. And
Yeah.
this is the licensed Muzak version of one of the Modal Node song that's playing in the diner.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's great. And look, music in Star Wars, we just with the Alexander Freed Alphabet Squadron and stuff, and Chasna Chaddock's got her, her music, got her tapes. She got her cassette tapes in the old B Wing there. I love kind of exploring that. The Outlander Club at the beginning of this movie is pretty normal. It's
It's a sports bar, we've decided, right?
sports bar with young hot people hanging around drinking, like it's pretty normal. And we get these questions a lot of, do you think they want to see more news reporters in Star Wars, more, do they watch movies or TVs hollows or whatever? And so I think there's a call for that, and the music in here kind of scratches that itch for me. It's just like, it's like, oh, I love Figrin' Dan. Is this that song? I don't like this version, but it's
A subpar version, but I'm still happy to hear it. Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. That's so great.
Mhm.
So from that we get into some actual dialogue. Dex is happy to see Kenobi. He yells, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan smiles real big and says, hello, Dex. Dex says, take a seat. I'll be right with you. Flo rolls by and asks, you want a cup of Jawa juice? Taking his seat, Obi-Wan responds happily, oh, yes, thank you. So beginning of the scene here, feel free to go wherever you want with this, but I also want to ask specifically, why do you think Obi-Wan is so happy to see Dex? What is your headcanon on their relationship?
Well, look, we know Obi-Wan enjoys a good drink and a good bar, but I think the we're going to get into some of what their implied history, but I think there's a great comfort. I think Obi-Wan has had I mean, you're a Jedi. There's a lot on your heart. You're seeing all parts of the world. You're seeing the bad parts, and to just be able to come sit here and find a friend. And even though I assume it's been a bit, um,
Mm-hmm.
there's something that's just Obi-Wan lets his robe down a little bit to me in this moment, and it feels good for him to be there. You talked about the single dad energy, the kids away for the weekend. You brought that up, but I think there's some truth to that. Of he gets to work, he gets to roll up his sleeves, but it starts with a friend. And I think, especially considering Obi-Wan's going to spend a lot of his life, the last 19 years or so of his life, with no friends, alone, or well, we'll see how many friends he makes out there in the desert in that series. I think it's almost sad. It's almost tragic to see that this is someone who likes to get out in the galaxy and rub shoulders with the folks down below, which maybe not a lot of the Jedi do at this time.
Yeah, that he's a social guy. I think that happiness, right? Because you could have played this as, this could have been a scene where, Dexter Jettster is not somebody who's really willing to give information. And we see Obi-Wan sneak around the back of the diner, and Dexter comes out the back and Obi-Wan grabs him and he's like, you owe me information. Like, it could have been played like harder, right? But the
Totally.
choice is to play it as this peek into Obi-Wan's life of he comes here. He
Yeah.
likes this guy. That this is some of that light side energy of this is the galaxy that Jedi are there to protect, so everything can be in balance and people can just go about their lives and they can have dinner and discussions and have a favorite diner and have a favorite bit of music
Yeah.
and have a favorite chef who you can maybe bend their ear. It's
Yeah.
just such a picture of not only Obi-Wan is somebody who truly enjoys life and is motivated to defend it because he enjoys it, but also like there's a lot of happiness in the galaxy when the dark side is not fallen.
I admit this is maybe a far stretch and going grandiose, but you and I talk about loving the Aki Aki Festival and Rise of Skywalker because it reminds Rey of why she's fighting and what's out there and the joy she never got to experience. I love that Obi-Wan's like, I got to go solve this galactic sized problem because I just want a club sandwich with a friend.
Right? Yeah, it's so great. The headcanon for me on their background is, it feels like they've known each other for a while, and I think
Mhm.
Obi-Wan encountered Dex maybe on a mission, a long time ago, and I think he's been coming there on and off since he was like a Padawan, right? Like,
Oh, yes. No, I have a vision. Sorry if I cut you off. I have a
no,
vision
go for it.
of like 9-year-old Obi-Wan and younger Qui-Gon going, we're gonna go get an omelet. And that's like the first time he sat down and he's got the kids menu. And now Dex is like, look at you. You're all grown up now.
Yeah, look at your long hair. Yeah, I love if Qui-Gon was like, you're getting a little pompous because Obi-Wan does have that in him, and let's get you out of the temple. We're gonna go get an omelet. Yeah, I can imagine even maybe young Padawan Obi-Wan bent Dex's ear about Satine, got some advice there, maybe.
Oh God, that's a win. Can we get that? So they've talked about that. A lot of people want that novel or a series. Oh God, that Dex, I have a question about love. Well, love, eh?
Yeah, I encountered that mining on Subterrell. Yeah.
And in the original notes, right, Dex and Hermione were going to be like together. They were a couple. The original concept of the scene.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh man, want to see that too. Yeah. And I think I agree with you that it's been a little while, right? And maybe Obi-Wan has been able to visit Dex, when he first became a knight, so Dex could see that. But maybe he's been so busy with Anakin that it's been a while, and there's definitely Obi-Wan is he's not goofing around, right? He's there for a very specific reason because he thinks Dex will have information, but he's happy to be there.
Totally.
So, also want to ask about one of the key lines in all of Star Wars, I think, and that is, you want what is it? You want a cup of Jawa Juice? Yeah. Yeah, a cup of Jawa Juice. Yes. Wanted to get it right. How do you feel about Jawa Juice? For you over the years, have you thought it's coffee, booze? Do you think it is made by Jawas or from Jawas? What has been your interpretation over the years?
After Mandalorian season 1, chapter 2, I mean, who knows what's in that thing there? Suka. I always took it as a form of coffee. Maybe a little spiked coffee, maybe a little fun coffee, but I always kind of took it as that kind of equivalent. Like, anytime I go into a diner, hey Ken, how you doing? You want some coffee or a hot chocolate? Hot chocolate, please. Whipped cream, yes, please. And that's me at 45. So, yeah, I've always taken it as that.
Yeah, the cup of also leads one to think of it as coffee, right? Because what 50s diner waitress walks by and goes, "You want a large cup of whiskey?" I mean,
well,
yeah. I mean, well, fair enough. Anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, in researching this on Wikipedia, it claims that the 2015 book Star Wars: Absolutely Everything You Need to Know claims that the drink is also known as Ardes, and it's a beverage that originated on Tatooine, made of bantha hides mashed with fermented grains, which would mean there's some alcohol involved.
I don't want that.
Do you reject this?
I rejected on. I just don't want it. If Flo asked me that question, the answer is no.
You want some bantha hides mashed with fermented grains? Yeah. I want to think at this point, I've always thought it was coffee, but at this point, I'm just going to add it to my personal headcanon that it is some kind of Irish coffee. It's coffee
There you go.
with a little something.
Yeah.
You said it too, spiked coffee. Maybe it is something that depending on your species, it's alcoholic.
Yeah.
Who
I
knows?
actually I have a jar still. I don't know if it's lasted, but I have coffee whiskey that my friend, the old camera guy at Screen Junkies, gave me. So, and it smells like coffee, tastes like whiskey. So maybe it's something like that.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. So how do you think it ended up there? And are you bothered by we as the audience know Jawas because we've visited this remote planet Tatooine. And of course, now with The Mandalorian, we know there are some off-world Jawas, seen them different places. But have you ever felt like, oh, that's too speaking to the audience? How does everybody in the galaxy know about Jawas?
Of all the things in the scene that I love and celebrate, this might be the thing that I could maybe live without, but I don't. By the way, I don't want to live without it. I've come to just have no problem with it. I remember at the time, like Jawa Juice, but hey, look, I think it's Solo when we learned that the Imperial March is actually the recruitment song, or and it's in world from a certain point of view. Like, I'm okay with that stuff. This one, it begs the question of, well, how many people know about Jawas? And what, is it, like I said, now we could say, I could get behind the headcanon of an off-world Jawa decades ago. It was like, hey, I'm going to start selling this drink in Coruscant to make a living, and rises up and owns his own Jawa Juice stand or something like that. And also now, Joseph, in this limited edition Kenobi series, him having a cup of Jawa Juice means a lot.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I want him to have a cup of Jawa Juice, and then I want him to look down into that dark fluid and see a reflection of Dexter Jettster's face.
Hopelessly devoted to Dex.
Exactly. I do really like the idea of that this is a drink that the Jawas make.
Yeah.
I think that really tracks with what we saw in Mandalorian, where they have that little patio at the top of the sandcrawler that we both love. They're clearly motivated by food and drink. They want suka so bad. I like that this is what they made for themselves.
I want to see the Jawa barbecue that's going on up there with just Jawa Juice being passed around.
Yeah, I think like Moisture Farmers on Tatooine know that the Jawas roll around like, hey, you want some Jawa juice? And they're trying to get them drunk so they can have an advantage when bartering.
Yeah.
And I think they tried to pull that on Dex once, and he brought it to Coruscant. That's my headcanon for now for Jawa Juice. There's so much to discuss in this scene. We spent the first chunk of this podcast discussing mostly the aesthetic and the drinks, and now we're really going to get into the heart of the conversation after we take a quick break.
Hey, ForceCenter friends, make sure you're keeping up to date on all the great content from Jennifer Landa. Whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, you whippersnappers, ForceCenter's own Jennifer Landa continues to bring you fun, informative, and insightful laughs and moments.
Also, Jennifer brings her experience and perspective as a Star Wars-loving mother to her DIY projects, blogs, and more, so be sure to head on over to jennylanda.com, that's JENILANDA.com, for articles like how to make your own Darth Maul sneakers or 10 unique Star Wars baby gift ideas.
Follow Jen on Twitter and Instagram at Jennifer Landa, and on TikTok as Jennifer Landa 1138.
And we are back to finish our discussion and our meal and drink at Dex's Diner. We're getting into the heart of the scene, diving right in here. Dex approaches, shouting, "Hey, old buddy." Kenobi rises. They share a big hug. And while Obi-Wan pats his back, Dex uses one of his 4 basilisk arms to pull up his pants. Ken, is this rude or just good multitasking?
And this is one of those important questions we've ever asked ourselves here in ForceCenter. I got to tell you, it's good multitasking. It's the opposite of rude. It's proper. It's he understands the base level expectations of a functioning society with modesty and clothing, and he kind of doesn't care, but he respects Obi-Wan and his customers enough to know that this is probably what he needs to do. Because again, he's so not pretentious, and he's lived such a full life. He gets it. And I just, who doesn't? If I had 4 arms, I'd be checking my pants all the time, pulling them up. I hate when my pants fall down. So there we go.
Yeah, I think this is one of those moments where it's probably like, okay, here's some more of that silly humor when I first saw it, but now I just love it. There's a whole discussion about, is it too Earth-like to 50s Diner? Is his, the grumpy old chef vibe too Earth-like? But let's give credit where credit's due. He's a real different alien. The Basilisk, has gone on to have some great life in Star Wars. Pong Krell, the horrific Jedi in the Clone Wars, being a Basilisk. And I think this is just, it's a moment to be like, to recenter. Like, yeah, we're in a 50s Diner, but we're still in Star Wars. In different characters' biology means that, they're going to have some different cultural habits. And this is a perfectly normal thing for a basilisk to do. Like, yeah, I'm hugging you, but I'm also flipping through this book or pulling up my pants or stirring this pot. Like, look, yeah, I got 4 arms. I'm always going to be multitasking. If you had 4 arms,
Yeah.
that might be part of your culture to always be multitasking.
Look, Dex has got places to go and things to do and knowledge to gather and wisdom to dole out. So, he's going to be
Yeah.
doing a lot of things.
Butts to cover. Yeah. As a joke, I think for me, it also does just really enforce like that's what we're doing. We're doing the sloppy old diner chef aesthetic. Does that work for you?
It does. Look, I grew up watching was a TV show, Kiss My Grits, Alice. You got Mel.
Yeah.
I thought by the way, I thought that was a documentary. I was so young when my parents had that on TV. So it always kind of works. And I had a good friend from high school who would go on to be kind of a short order cook. And outside of the 2 extra arms, very much like Dex.
And that's maybe how he'd use those extra arms, right?
He needed them. Let's just say that he needed them.
So let's talk about the hug itself. That's an intense hug. There's a level of intimacy. There's a joy in these characters embracing. What does that tell us about the characters? Why is the hug there? We were talking about how a lot in the prequels we really believe is that is an intentional choice, like it or not. It's not random. Why is the hug there?
I could look at it in 2 ways. What we knew at the time in 2002 or pre-Disney era where the stories expanded in a lot of ways. And also Clone Wars, Satine, all that kind of stuff. I could look at that. I could look at then. This to me represents trust. That these 2 characters have shared experiences or points of view, or at the very least have understanding of each other's experiences and points of view, and that's why they come together for this. And that's the value of the relationship, and that Kenobi understands the importance of it. For some reason this has been in my mind all the time. I know sometimes you and I will mention key points over and over when they're on our mind. Mine is the Leia and Wicket lately, where Leia, the rebellion, looks at Wicket as an ally when the rest of the galaxy did not see that. And to me, it's Kenobi as a Jedi coming down below and just totally open to this dirty, grimy, pants falling down, short order cook because he knows he's got a history. He knows he's got story. He knows he's got experiences, and he knows that he can be himself and get the information and support he needs from Dex. All that to be in a hug, because remember, this is Kenobi. This is attachment guy. Don't do this. This is, all the stuff now we know of Satine and his background there. He's attached in a way to Dex, not in a way that would, I think, knock him off his Jedi pedestal there. But it says a lot. It's important that it's a hug.
Yeah, to me, I really agree with you. It is reinforcing all of these various ideas we've been talking about. Of this could have been, an edgier scene where Obi-Wan had to barter for the information, but this is really a scene about people who like each other and trust each other to the point where they can kind of rib each other. So I think it's important in establishing that. I also think it's very interesting that it's in this movie. It happens not long before the conversation that Anakin and Padme are going to have on the refugee ship about what the actual rules for attachment are.
Right.
And where Anakin makes that argument that's, I think, both true and a little bit of self-serving to build this relationship with Padme of, we're not supposed to have committed relationships, but we are supposed to be compassionate for everyone. And I think this shows this picture of like, hey, this is what that is when it's functioning. Obi-Wan is not so attached to Dexter that if something happens to him, Obi-Wan's going to lose his mind and go murder everyone involved, right? But he's a friend, and friendships are good, and compassion and hugging is good. That's the light side. That's what we fight for. And I feel that in this hug.
Yeah, no, the way they could have approached this scene or this beat in the story, you're right. It could have been Kenobi needing to knock 3 times on the back door in the alley or bribing him. They went up front, center with a connection, and I like that about the scene.
Yeah. And also, I think it's notable the hug, whether or not you think it works now, whether you think it worked back in the day, definitely like an evolution of the Jar Jar tech, right? People talk a lot about how Jar Jar is this first, all animated, obviously Ahmed Best was there in the mocap, all that stuff. But this is definitely like, hey, let's keep playing with that. Can we make Ewan McGregor hug a person who's not there? Yes, we can. So they sit down. Dex squeezes into the booth with a groan and a cough. And we've talked around it a little bit, but this seems like a good place to dive into Dex's aesthetic himself, right? He's big and loud. He's the owner of the diner, but he's also getting his 4 hands real dirty doing the actual work. He's got a big bushy mustache, deep voice, jowls for days. It's a very specific aesthetic. What do you think is gained by his look, his attitude? How does he expand, the Star Wars palette of characters?
Well, you mentioned it. He's memorable in his own way. I really think he's charming, designed to be charming, designed to be warm but gruff, all those things. But then I also love it. Just makes you. You mentioned it. You mentioned earlier. I love earlier on. Kenobi's like, politicians ain't to be trusted. Ain't nothing I like up here. Later on in Revenge of the Sith, Anakin, this is your world. I don't like these politicians. This is Obi-Wan's people. This is Obi-Wan's world. This is it. It tracks. It seems like it's a joke of Kenobi in bars, Kenobi with a drink, and it happens for a reason, but it makes sense. It's really the character, and I think Dex just serves that. Not to just say he's there to serve Kenobi, but he is in the scene in a way. And it in a prequel series that is clean, right? There's a lot of sheen, and people talk about the sleek designs and the beauty of Naboo, and even Coruscant. We're up there on the higher, the temples and the chambers. To go down to the ground, not quite to the ground, but to go down to this level and see someone like Dex, grimy, pants falling down, but he's got the answers. I just love that he exists, and his design works for me in Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I will invoke what you just invoked. I think there is some Ewok lesson going on of everyone matters and don't judge by appearance. Those are themes that happen in Star Wars a lot, and I think Dexter is a big one of those. I think the fact that also that he is shown as like, I work here. We know that it's his diner, but he's very much working there. He's behind. He's not in a nice suit yelling at Hermione Bagua, right? He is working. That's one of the things that to me evokes the specific detective noir Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe's novels, because in those stories that are set in 30s 40s LA, it is Philip Marlowe is a detective who has a hopeful heart and wrestles with cynicism and is upset by how awful the world can be. And what often happens in these stories is whatever horror is going on that he's investigating, it's usually the rich upper class people who are doing the crime and causing the pain, like Palpatine, Dooku, Trade Federation, banking clan. And the detective character, the Philip Marlowe character in this scenario, the Obi-Wan character, gets the information about what's going on and how the crime is affecting people from the day-to-day people, the little people that the rich people think don't matter. And Dex is like the poster boy for that kind of character, the kind of character that somebody like Dooku thinks doesn't matter.
Absolutely. It's upstairs, downstairs in a galactic scale.
It really is.
Yeah, and I love it. And I again, speaking in personal taste, it's like I am more likely to hang out with Dexter than anyone else, and that's not a judgment of politicians. I actually have some politician friends and everything, but like Dexter's my guy too, and that's why I get it. I get it, Obi-Wan.
Yeah. So very, very there for the general aesthetic of Dex. So our two friends here start chatting up a storm now. Dex asks, "So, my friend, what can I do for you?" Obi-Wan holds up the saber dart and says, "You can tell me what this is." Dex takes the dart and says, "Wow, what do you know?" I ain't seen one of these since I was prospecting on Sub-Terrell beyond the Outer Rim. So, Dex has clearly had more than one career. We see just practically, this is why Obi-Wan went to him for advice. But what does this add to the character, the scene, knowing that he's been around the block?
I think for me, he's first of all, he's in the Grizzled Weirdo Hall of Fame. This is we talked about the kind of the working man and all those kind of things. I don't want to repeat any kind of points, but it's the eons of history and experience that are just there waiting for you. And I'm daydreaming about a Dex, young Dex series right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, it paints this picture of like the Hard Knock galaxy, right? That There's a
It's
lot
hard.
of different stuff out there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different experiences to have, and I get this picture that Dex has had like 50 jobs, right? You get him
Mhm.
going and he's like, "Oh yeah, I was a boxer for a while. Yeah, I was a miner on a prospector on Sub Terrell, Yeah, I had some money for a while and I produced some holo videos, and then
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
kind of my retirement, that he's been everywhere, done everything is
Mhm.
a cool picture, right?
Oh, yeah, he had a used speeder dealership, probably on, another planet. He's done and we all have those kinda cats. I have a friend out in Texas, and he's the guy. He's the one I'd probably go to for these type of, answers. He's a nicer version of Walter Sobchak and Big Lebowski. You want a tow, I can get you a tow. He's that guy, and again, it's this, we're going to talk about it in a second, but it's like we're seeing, the knowledge versus wisdom, which is, I think, the big core of this scene. You got Dexter's Diner. You mentioned you got Jedi Archives. By the way, nothing against Jocasta New, but also it's interesting to note. I'm going to take it a little bit this way, Joseph. It's interesting to note these two characters back to back. We got Dexter and Jocasta New.
Mm-hmm.
These are two characters that I remember still answering the question of who is the Jedi archivist, the librarian, whatever you will, in a trivia contest, and I answered Jocasta New and everything. And after the match, some contemporary colleagues of mine in the business, I understand they don't watch and understand Star Wars like I do, or you do, or Alex Damon, or anyone like that, but they came and they literally 2018 or something were like, wait, are you telling me that there's a Jedi librarian? And I'm like, number one, I was like, well, yes, and she's
Yeah.
spectacular. But that throws a wrench in their love of Star Wars just as much as Dexter. This idea of there's a library. Wait a minute, the Jedi have a library? Like, why would you think they wouldn't? Like, what's in that temple?
When Yoda said knowledge and defense, that really
Yeah.
that includes books.
Yeah. But it's also the same reaction with Dex of like, a short order cook and a librarian, and as Techniclones, it challenges people a lot of ways in that aspect.
Yeah, no, I can't wait and to read about a Jedi accountant that's just gonna blow people's minds.
Well, yeah, but and we're seeing, if a Falcon Winter Soldier raises questions about where the funding and monies, and I love when James Bond's credit card gets denied. I mean, like, Jedi have expense accounts. Where do they get that money? Do we really want to know? I don't know, but it's all, and we don't like to get. Star Wars doesn't need to get into those nuts and bolts. It's just the topping of the cake here, obviously, as we know. But I think it's fun to know it exists and play around with it.
I think it is important to just be aware. It's why I wanted to do that episode a while back about the fantasy versus the realism. That's going to be attention because I think
Yeah.
Lucas was interested in both, and like I said, I think in the prequels he was really interested more in like the nuts and bolts of how does their society work because it was a criticism of how the society fell apart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So going into their conversation even more, Obi-Wan asks if Dex can tell him where the dart came from. Flo delivers 2 cups of Jawa Juice, so Dex is possibly drinking on the job if we believe this is alcoholic.
I mean, he is. Come on, he is.
He's got a little bit of that aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
The Jawa Juice comes in these silvery cups with a spiral design. Dex says, this baby belongs to them cloners. What you got here is a Camino saber dart. And Obi-Wan says, I wonder why it didn't show up in the analysis archives. Dex responds, it's the funny little cuts on the side that give it away. Those analysis droids only focus on symbols. Ha! I should think that you Jedi would have more respect for the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Yeah, there's a real delivery choice there. Ken, I love this line. I agree with what you were saying, that I think it is kind of the key line of this scene to dive into. What for you is the importance of the difference between knowledge and wisdom in Star Wars and or real life? Why is that such a big line?
Ooh, you're asking big questions there, and Dex has the big answers. I even did the 7th grade book report thing. I went to look up the definitions because I wanted to make sure for myself at 45 that have I lived my whole life with the right thoughts of this. And, in general, I think we all understand knowledge is kind of, for lack of a better term, just the collection and the gathering of skills and information and facts is thrown in there a lot too. And And that includes learning, studying. It's not just sitting around and observing. It's experiencing that stuff, gathering it. And to me, this is Ken's definition. Wisdom is the application of that knowledge and knowing what to use that knowledge for, how to use it, when to use it might be even more important. And that's just a simple way I've always kind of looked at it. And then to see it on display here, it's funny, and the deleted scene you're talking about, we don't get in the movie. We don't need it in the movie, but I love how this begins, because we're gonna get to some fun, playful tension between them, or some barbs and some banter. But it kind of starts with Obi-Wan legitimately going, "Man, why did the analysis droids miss this?" And not that he isn't a wise character, but I think Obi-Wan gets wiser. I think when we see him at that campfire resolution, he's all wisdom, and the knowledge is burned away because he has it. It's there, but he knows how to just really use it. And he's at a very wise spot in his life when he's talking to Maul at the end. Look what I've risen above. It's a pretty wise statement. And I think you go back here and it's grown from that. This is Dex is one of those characters. This is one of those moments where Obi-Wan's really faced with it.
Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely great. You're right. We don't need the analysis droid scene to make this comparison, because we kind of get it in this scene. But it's powerful to see the analysis droids in their very clean space. Everything looks like it's very controlled. He has to put it in a tray, and they're very, very certain of themselves. It's fun for me to see those analysis droids again, because they're not the exact same kind of analysis droids, but they're very similar analysis droids to the ones who have no idea what's happening with Padme. It makes you go, maybe we shouldn't trust the droid's word for what's going on with Padme in Revenge of the Sith.
Droids,
but yeah, to me, I think I agree with the way you're defining this. Knowledge it's not just facts you can Google, but it's experiential knowledge, it's skills. But wisdom is about the application of how do you apply those, when do you apply those. I think to me, in real life, I think a lot about wisdom being, you go through life and you have experiences and you learn something, and sometimes you're like, got it, now I know how to handle that the next time. But the next time's different, and you get a different set of wisdom. And to me, every moment that I get older, I always feel like wisdom is the wisdom to know when to use which wisdom. Right?
It's 100% true.
I think that's very, very big with Star Wars. Of the Jedi constantly have to make these choices about when taking action is moral and right and necessary, and when it's taking action just going to exacerbate the problem. But for right here, right now, this line, I absolutely love it. I always took it as just something, playful, and we're going to get to the teasing, and really Dex teasing about, like, you Jedi are know-it-alls, but sometimes there's these more greasy spoon level of wisdom of, you can't find everything in a computer or in an old holocron. Sometimes you have to go out there and experience life. This is greasy spoon kind of wisdom. I always took it that way. But rewatching Attack the Clones a while back for one of our discussions, and marveling at how much Padme was on top of everything throughout the movie. And this is then also a movie about the Jedi already having a lot of knowledge, accumulating a lot of knowledge, but not having the wisdom to see what was going on around them. This line is central to me of the theme of Attack the Clones. It's the tragedy that the Jedi have all of this knowledge, but they're not able to apply it. They're not able to turn it into the right kind of wisdom to see who the Sith are, to recognize what Dooku's up to see why they're being drawn into the war, to truly question and get to the bottom of all of the possibilities of the prophecy around Anakin. The Jedi are this picture of this group that has a lot of knowledge and is not able to transform it into wisdom. And then Padme's arc through this movie is somebody who has knowledge and is constantly converting it into wisdom by figuring out what is actually going on, how to handle situations, what the wisdom Anakin needs to hear after his mom died, and he did this horrible act of slaughtering the Tusken Raiders. So knowledge and wisdom, great moment in this scene between these two characters, very truthful to the character of Dexter Jettster, but I think a big key to appreciating Attack of the Clones.
Wow, you just gave the scene the gravitas it deserves. It's central to the theme. Also, I really am trying to campaign to have it called Star Wars Episode 2: Believe Women, and it's just a picture of Padme in Palpatine's office when Ki-Adi-Mundi's telling her, "Don't worry," and it's just that look she gives everyone of like, okay, I see what's happening. No, it's very important because this idea that the Jedi at this point have just acquired to say a lot of knowledge is to not count at all. I mean, we've got hundreds, thousands of years. We're just scratching the surface on the High Republic. They have so much knowledge. I think of Porter Engle, my new favorite Jedi that I love to talk about from the High Republic series and Light of the Jedi. I've just 300 years still out there. I want Porter Engle and Dexter Jettster to run into each other and have a great scene of just wisdom over knowledge. And the Jedi, with all his knowledge, you said it, Joseph, they're losing the ability to properly apply it to a very fast changing world. We hear the term in the prequels, the narrow dogmatic view of the Jedi. Now, that's a big accusatory phrase from the mouth of a Gothic villain. I understand that. But it's also the truth, right? The Jedi are clouded by him, but they're clouded. Dex is not. I bet Dex, given a few moments, could figure out Palpatine was the evil.
That's why Palpatine never went to Dex's diner.
Yeah. And so I guess my tongue is in cheek for about 2 seconds, but I'll pull it out to say this scene, for all of its controversy about a 50s diner, is basically telling you, and Obi-Wan, look around you for 3 movies. This is the crap that's going on. Catch up, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there is. I think this is just one of the real active moments where we all kind of know the story of the Jedi in the prequels. It's the story of how they fell, right? But these are some real active scenes where we see the cold hubris of the analysis droids, or hear about it in this scene, and that pomposity that's going on there, and with Jocasta Nu of like the Jedi accumulate knowledge, they value knowledge, but it's also a tenet to question knowledge. And we see these moments of hubris where they don't question knowledge, but then we also see a positive contrast where Yoda does what Jedi are supposed to do in the scene with the younglings, and question it and look at it from a different perspective. And, it's the moment of tragedy of like, some of the Jedi like Yoda are still doing those things, but they're not happening enough, not happening in the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, these are the beats that are coming right after this big scene here, and again, we really do enjoy Jocasta Nu as a character. We love the little run she had in the Vader comic. Rest in peace.
Stuff.
Great stuff with Jocasta Nu. So we're not attacking Jocasta. She's just a product of the environment and a product of what's going on. And that hubris word we love. We love it for a reason. It's a powerful word. And by the way, Kristen Baver uses it excellently in the Skywalker book she just wrote. So this idea that, that look on her face, like, Obi-Wan, if it's not here, it doesn't exist. Like, how could you? By the way, this is the same Jedi Order that Ki-Adi-Mundi I just mentioned is like, Dooku's a political idea. Ki-Adi-Mundi is the type that's like, I'm going to go visit Dex. And he's like, he is just a short order cook. He cannot.
He's just a diner idealist. Yes.
He's the diner idealist. His club sandwiches are good, but they're not full of the wisdom we need.
It's great Star Wars stuff, great real life stuff. I think it is an ongoing journey for me to value the knowledge you have, but also take that moment to question it. And questioning it doesn't mean throwing it out. It means, to me, it means double checking it, right? Because sometimes you're like, hey, here's something that I believe and I've believed for years and years and years. Let me stop and question it. No, I'm still good with it. It's more than stopping to question it, because sometimes you go, oh, wait, I should look at it from this different perspective. And other times it will help you validate a truth, or validate a piece of wisdom.
One of my old bosses, oh God, he used to drive me crazy, but he was good at his job, but he trust and verify every day at my old job. I had to deal with that, and trust and verify, but I got it.
You got it. You got the old trust and verify. All right. So let's move on then. Obi-Wan smirks and seems a little challenged by Dexter poking at the Jedi, not knowing the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Is this the value of their relationship, challenging one another? Does Obi-Wan go there for the Jawa juice and to be poked by Dex? I
never thought of it in these terms based on some of the big grandiose things we've discussing here. And I'm saying, could Dex have figured out who Palpatine was before them? I mean, the Zillabes could. I think there's something, I don't think Dex is on that tip there, but I think I think he's seen this coming, if you know what I mean. And I think this is an ongoing conversation that Obi-Wan has heard before, whether it's not specific to knowledge in Jedi, but just Dex is on the street, down there on the ground. He's hearing the conversations that are around these diners. He's having the conversations. I'm sure a couple Jedis have walked in for Jawa Juice and some Ronto omelets, and he's heard what people think about those Jedi. So he's seen this happen. And so I think it does go back and forth, and there's great value to it. But it's fun and it's supportive, and he's rooting for him. And I think Obi-Wan knows that. And I think this is it's like Obi-Wan has that moment. I highlighted. Obi-Wan's like, the droids. Next thing you know, he's like, oh, I know what's coming. Dex, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, because it's a great moment by Ewan McGregor where he's like, oh, here we go. All right. You got your shot in. You got your shot in, buddy. Nice one.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
I think I haven't realized how much headcanon I'm taking from this one tiny moment.
Same.
But for me, it really is about Obi-Wan is somebody who can be dogmatic, but he's also somebody who does come to truly, truly value this idea of like, oh, wait, let's look at it from this other angle. Particularly once he gets into the Clone Wars, we see him solving problems again and again by going, wait, let's not rush in. Let's find out what's going on, or let's, turn the tables on somebody in a way that they're not thinking about. And it just seems so central to me to him as a character that I've always just pictured, like, when he's got free time, he has a collection of bars and diners and maybe remote villages on different planets where he's like, I know that I can go and get a meal and get a drink, and I can have a debate, and I can have my views questioned, and I can hear other people's perspectives. And that's, to me, like a big part of who his character is in my headcanon because of this interaction.
Yeah, no, it works. And there's a spirit to it that is, we talk about this warm, comforting environment here that Dex provides and Dex represents. And I love having a little discussion. I can have discussions on either favorite movies or shows I want, but it's like, how are you discussing it with me? Is it? And there's, are you in my face about it, or are you like Dex going, come on, buddy, look at it this way? It's something I like about this scene too.
Yeah, I think it also just ties back to original Alec McGinnis. There's Alec McGinnis. I don't know where that came from. I do. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Alec Guinness. That there's a lot of him just poking and challenging, right? The should I have line, or who's the more foolish line. There are a lot of things where he could have just stated his opinion, but he just kind of pushes on Han a little bit, and that's somebody who likes to have these kind of let's debate.
Yeah.
Let's trade barbs. Let's trade perspectives. So Obi-Wan does exactly that. He counters with the comment, well, if droids could think, there'd be none of us here, would there? A shocking line. Somewhere the droid Gatra loads the power packs on their blasters. We've moved into a new era of Star Wars storytelling where there's been moments of it throughout, but we're really, really re-examining how all of our organic characters treat the droid characters. We got the droid Gatra. We have L3 fighting for droid rights in Solo. So how do you take this line now? What does it tell you about Obi-Wan, about the state of droids in the galaxy?
Yeah, we had that wonderful little sequence and planet in Alphabet Squadron run by droids, right?
Right.
Haunting in a way. It's just, I love it. I've because you're right. That's all kind of more modern Disney era canon stuff, but this is not. This is 2002, and it's like, man, Obi-Wan, are you a jerk? But we also see his treatment of R4 is a little different, and you see Anakin's connection both to 3PO in the past and R2 later on, and this kind of revelation that I think we get later on in the Star Wars world of Anakin didn't wipe R2's memory like maybe he should have, like protocol maybe dictated. It's interesting. So it's a bit of a comment maybe on the Jedi. I also understand where Obi-Wan's coming from. I mean, he just been 10 years ago, he's slashing, mindless droids out there in Naboo. And if they had any more thought, maybe they wouldn't. And so he's got some resentment. But I don't hold it against Obi-Wan. I think it may be, again, product of his environment where he was raised.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like it because as much as I love the character of Obi-Wan, I don't love him because I think he's always right. I love him because I think he's complex and interesting. And I
Yeah.
think he has a pompous, judgmental streak. And I think he gets better as he gets older. But I mean,
Mm.
you can't ignore that line in Phantom Menace where he tells Qui-Gon, like, have you picked up another pathetic life form? you know, he's got a little bit of the, Jedi are pretty great. And I think there's like a bias to like his perspective of, knowledge and
Yeah.
training and questioning things. That's what you got to be, somebody who does that. That's what makes people great is
Mhm.
knowledge and training and questioning things. And he can be judgmental if he thinks people aren't doing that.
Yeah, it's a little knowledge and wisdom example here too. You know, if you had a little more wisdom, you might treat the droids a little better. And it's a running joke. Look, the very next scene, we R2 gets the same treatment if we don't serve droid from the droid on the refugee ship. You know, it's
Yeah,
present in the galaxy.
droid being rude to a droid.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But definitely, I want in a Lego Star Wars show or video game a scene between Obi-Wan and L3 where L3 is not happy with
Oh,
Obi-Wan for this line.
I love that, and a final note for me on it too. Your love of Obi Wan is infectious in the best way. And I love that you highlight that. You don't love Obi Wan because every part of his story is perfect. You learn from him. I've told you all here. Except for I gravitate towards Han before I knew why, but then I kind of got as I got older. And there's parts of Han that are bad that I see in myself, and I'm inspired and moved by these characters' journeys. It's part of it, and I think I love that Obi-Wan has some fallacies.
Yeah, yeah. And if you watch that analysis droid cut scene, I can also feel a little bit more for like, yeah, those droids were kind of rude and pompous. So
They were rude.
if those are the droids Obi-Wan's hanging out with, like he's going like, oh, thank goodness that they can't go beyond their programming and decide, exactly how the Jedi should be filed.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, then the conversation gets back to business. Obi-Wan asks, Camino, I'm not familiar with it. Is it in the Republic? And Dex answers, no, it's beyond the Outer Rim. I'd say about 12 parsecs outside the Rishi Maze. Should be easy to find even for those droids in your archives. Then he whispers, these Kaminoans keep to themselves. They're cloners, damn good ones too. So damn good ones to me, implies the existence of crappy cloners.
Yes.
We had a great question about what else Camino might be cloning on a recent episode of our News and Cues show. But I did want to kind of remix it here. How much cloning do you think is going on in the galaxy?
I think enough to where it's on the far reaches of the galaxy. It's in the margins, so to speak, because maybe it's something that's not accepted or frowned upon or not fully understood. But look at the journey the clones are about to go on, right, and discover themselves while being exactly the same as everyone else around them. I think it's important. I do think there's crappy cloners. I think if you've ever seen the movie Multiplicity, they're all putting out the fourth versions of Michael Keaton, the one who puts pizza in his wallet, which is also my favorite version. But I think it's out there. And I think much like slavery is still in existence in the margins of the galaxy, and the Republic can only do so much, or feels they can only do so much, or maybe they should do more. I think this is tip of the iceberg storytelling to clones in the galaxy that I actually hope we see some other spots.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would really like to see more storytelling. And I really like the idea that, yeah, Camino is special, right? That they
Mhm.
are high end. And I like the idea that cloning is done by lots of different people, but as you're saying, maybe some shady people.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get some like, yeah, it's not a whole planet scientifically devoted to it. It's a guy with some equipment, you know?
Look, man, I have for my iPhone, I have some. I wouldn't call them. I'd call them ear pods because I got them at a swap meet. Um, but I can go to the Apple store, which looks like Camino, and I can get the other ones for the full price. But sometimes you're in the galaxy, you need a clone, you need an ear pod. You get what you get.
Yeah, yeah. The bargain basement clone.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. I like the idea that what is different about the story of the Clone Wars is this massive scale, right? And
Yeah.
the effect it has on the galaxy. And I do like the idea that maybe cloning is frowned upon, maybe it's complex, hard to get right, but that it's done a lot on a small scale for small conflicts that
Mhm.
maybe just happen on one planet or
Yeah.
interplanetary or to generate workers or just the vanity of cloning yourself
Mhm.
that is happening I would love some stories that show that it's happening on a small scale, and sometimes it's fine, and other times you get the version of clones that are earbuds.
Yep, they work 25% of the time.
How important to you is this picture that Camino is outside the Republic, this kind of secret place that someone like Dexter has heard of?
Talking speaks to the knowledge and wisdom thing that Dexter would know, and not just the Jedi, but a lot of uptight, formal people inside the galaxy might not think it exists, might not think it exists anymore, or just didn't care to look. And I think there's a part of that that works for me, and it's just the Camino itself, which is a world and a planet and a kind of environment that you and I love. I love how literally alien it is, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind or sci-fi it is, which is what I would want out of some really damn good cloners. And I think they logistically it works for me, just them on the outside. I keep saying the term the margins, which is like outside the center of the galaxy.
Yeah, I think there's something to that too. Of like, this is the era of the Republic, and the Jedi are dealing with all of these Republic politics, and it can be seen as like, well, the Republic is the galaxy, right? And Phantom Menace reminds us, no, there's some awful things going on Tatooine with the slavery and the crime, and then this is another reminder that like the Republic's not the whole galaxy. You don't have your grip on everything. There are other places and forces and powers that be.
Indeed.
So Obi-Wan responds, cloners, are they friendly? Dex replies, oh, depends. Obi-Wan smiles and prods, depends on what, Dex? Dex leans in and says, on how good your manners are, on how big your pocketbook is. Then he chuckles ominously. So let's talk about, first, Ken, the super real Earth word, pocketbook. How are you feeling about that these days?
Look, if you get held up on pocketbook in this scene, then you've already let pass many giant obstacles. And if that holds you up, God bless you. I got nothing for you. And yep, this scene is horrible. Yeah, if you're like in the 50s diner with club sandwiches, Jawa juice, and jukebox music, the guy said pocketbook, I'm out. And I guess there you go. I've honestly literally never thought about it. I love it. I also love the idea of just Kenobi having like a billfold with walking around money and a Jedi credit card.
That's the thing. I think I've always, when I heard it, I accepted it as is what it means, which we're going to
Yeah.
talk about, and what it stands for. But then recently, I think because there's always discussion about what is to Earth world or not, big
Mhm.
ass door, Godspeed Rebels, you got a boyfriend, cute boyfriend. Everybody's had for the sequels as they've come out, different words or phrases like, that's too real world. And then
Mm.
whenever I hear those discussions, I'm like, remember when Dexter Jettster says pocketbook?
Ah.
So I think it's one of those words that is very, very earthbound, but kind of flies under the radar in our discussions of that.
It's also, I don't know. I just also love it as a detail. I was just rewatching Dirty Rotten Scoundrels the other day. Frank Oz directed, Ian McDermott in it, Steve Martin, Michael Caine, and Glenn Headley at the end when she's playing up the character. Like he even took my little change purse. I just love those little details. And this pocketbook's a good one. It invokes the 1950s, like a businessman out on a trip selling vacuums.
Yep. You know who has a pocketbook and a change purse? Hermione Bagua.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that ominous chuckle. What is the ominous chuckle about? Do you like that as a part of Dexter's character? We've talked about him as, down to earth, has true wisdom, but now he's getting borderline scary. Do you like that in his character? And why does he do it? What is the ominous chuckle about?
I've thought about this a lot, even years before we had a podcast. I think that's one of the moments I love about the scene. It is really ominous. By the way, the fact that Kenobi's like cloners, are they friendly? Which means he has to ask that question. I mean, cloners have a bad reputation. They're off doing weird things. They're maybe pirates or scoundrels or weird dark scientists, using dark magic. Secrets only the Sith knew. There's something to it. And so Dex, money's and that works, and he knows. By the way, I love the idea that Dex accidentally like stopped in Camino to fill up a gas tank at some point and learned a lot about him. Just, hello, who are you? You guys got any sandwiches here? That's a great scene. I love it. I love that we don't necessarily get the answer. The conversation is going to go on. We're going to talk about that, but just like it's like he's telling Kenobi, "Oh, you don't even know what you're up against, do you? You don't even have that. You don't even have that knowledge, let alone the wisdom of what to go deal with."
Yeah, I like that. I like the shade that it adds to his character, that he isn't just lovable and silly, that he's that chuckle is kind of like, I know how rough the galaxy is. Good luck.
Absolutely. It's like, I've seen some beep.
Yeah, but then just for like the story and the themes of Star Wars,
Mm.
emphasizing, I think this ominous chuckle on Pocketbook really emphasizes this dark truth that that greed makes the galaxy go round, and I think you can dig into it in lots of different places in Star Wars, but the prequel trilogy, it is such an important theme to Lucas. He brings it up in interviews, and if you watch the prequels with just greed on your mind, you hear the word again and again, you see how it pops up again and again. That's why the crawl starts with, the what some people think is the boring taxation of trade routes, because it's about greed, and about how deadly greed can be. It's such a central theme of the prequels, and I think this is yet another place to emphasize it, of like a Dex saying like, "Hey, Jedi friend, I know you're trying to solve a mystery and answer some Jedi questions, and you're trying to figure out who's trying to assassinate who, but remember, whatever stone you turn over, you're gonna find greed, and you should remember that."
Yeah, and it's almost slightly, there's a cynical bent, maybe. I don't think Dexter's a overly cynical guy, but there's a little bit of just like, I love that you tied it to Pocketbook. Now that's a real deep theme of money rules this place, don't you know? You know that. You're gonna face it.
Yeah, don't forget it. Yeah. So then the scene concludes with Obi-Wan smiling at Dex, turning the dart around in his hands and saying, "Hmm." And then we wipe to the Jedi Archives for Obi-Wan to continue his investigation. So, Ken, how do you think the rest of the scene goes? What do Obi-Wan and Dex talk about as they finish their Jawa juice?
I think there's maybe a couple more beats of business. Maybe so what's going on, old buddy? But then I think shortly after that, I think Dex, number one, I think Flo's like, hey, someone ordered a Ronto burger. But I think at some point Dex just says, "Oh, buddy, let's put aside business. How are you doing? What's been going on?" I think they have a friendly conversation.
Yeah, I think that the conversation turns. I think Obi-Wan maybe asks Dex a little bit about how the business is going. Maybe hears about somebody who stole some space muffins, and Dex jokingly asks, like, maybe you could use your Jedi skills and track him down for me, the muffin thief. Um, I don't know if this would actually happen, but I really like the idea that Obi-Wan, that exactly as you're saying, Dex would kind of pry, and Obi-Wan would open up a little bit about the stress of trying to raise and train Anakin,
Yeah, a little, yeah.
And if there's any version, any galactic version of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I think Dex has been involved in that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's probably a couple Dex Juniors running around. Yeah, I think they have that. I think Obi-Wan's like, are you still you and Hermione? Oh no, that didn't work out. She's great. So I don't hold it against her. We get along great. She's here working. Yeah.
I think that is an absolute for sure. So we went all the way through the scene. Want to have some kind of conclusion and wrap up questions here as well, Ken. What do you think of all the diner patrons in the background? As we were going through it line by line, I didn't want to stop to annotate them all because I wanted to stay on the conversation and the aesthetics, but it's a big part of the scene, all these different diner patrons wandering through the background. What do you think of them? Do you have favorites?
I love. I'm convinced it's like Rats Terrell's aunt is leaving, the Alenian that's walking out. I love it because it's very intentional in a way, and it might just be like, hey, we got this tech, let's just toss a bunch of patrons in there, because they're not all just sitting there, right? Like the dog getting up and kind of moving, you see it takes your focus off the scene for a second.
Yep.
In a great way. Plus, hey, we're coming off of Sebulba, so it's kind of immediately you're like, hey, wait a minute. Then you realize Obi-Wan didn't have a lot of contact with Sebulba. The Rhodians, and I mentioned like the human woman behind Dex, just in the black dress. She's got like a big like 1950s sci-fi kind of Hunger Games, hat.
There's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot of Alina, some Rhodians, some Dougs, some humans with weird hats. A lot of humans with weird hats.
Yeah, and I love it. I love the way she's just eating and just staring out like it's a sunny day. She's got to get back to work. That all kind of works for me. So, but my favorite is the Elenian kind of leaving now that we know a little bit more of Ratz's history and the family and the death of Ratz Tyrell. She's, I choose to believe she's connected in some way.
Yeah. There is a little wobble as the Alina is walking out. Do
Yep.
you think the Alina is been having some afternoon alcoholic beverages, or do you think the Alina misses the step a little?
I think call him A, call him B. That Jawa juice, that'll get you.
It's
Get you.
hard.
That
Yeah.
fermented hide, bantha hide.
Yeah. I love to see the Doug walking because it's really just, it centers you. It's so pedestrian. You see it crossing one way, and just as your mind's like, hey, where'd that Doug go? Then they go exactly where they should be, continuing their walk from the other perspective. I like that. Yeah, it's a mix of aliens that we know from classic original trilogy with the Rhodians. And then we have, oh, hey, look, Sabalba's not just like this one alien who pod races. These people are all over the galaxy, and here's some more.
Well,
I love that.
Yeah. No, that works for me too, because you and I talk a lot about characters, species coming back in other parts of Star Wars, kind of validating the prequels. Well, this is like episode 2 validating episode 1 years later. Like, hey,
Exactly.
no, they're part of this world.
Yeah, and I've never focused on her as much, but I couldn't stop looking at weird human hat lady in the nice black dress, who really is just finishing food. And I kind of like some of the weird hat humans sometimes. I used to be disappointed, like, give me weird aliens, but now I kind of like, you just see the weird hat humans and you don't know, is like, is that a fashion choice of the day? Is that the outfit for where you work? Is that a part of your culture? You don't know what it is, and it's so great.
It's almost, she's really fancy. Who knows what she's working. I think maybe she also went to Canto Bight at one point, and that's the dress she had one dress there. There's just a lot to dig into there.
Yeah, it sure is. A lot of great diner patrons, from the stumbling Alina to the lady with the weird hat and a lot on her mind. Here's the most obvious, simple question I have ever asked you, Ken. Would you want to hang out at Dexter's Diner?
I am almost disappointed the Galaxy's Edge wasn't set in the Cocoa District. I want to experience this in the worst way. I want a Dex figure that's 6-inch Black Series scale behind the kitchen window. Give me Hermione. Give me a WA7. Give me that whole sequence. I want a Dexter's Diner Lego playset. I want to go to Dexter's Diner in any way I can.
Yeah, having had the fortune to have gone to a couple of like pop-up events, particularly for Twin Peaks, where they try to recreate a little bit of a vibe of going to one of those places, and then Galaxy's Edge, I would so love to go to a pop-up that it just is Dexter's Diner. I would absolutely adore sitting there. It's like we said, is Greasy Spoon, down to earth, but it also just looks really pleasant. It's aesthetically pleasing. Those nice, comfy red booths and the cool chrome everywhere. I would love to sit in there and drink Jawa juice and work on some writing. It was one of my goals right before the pandemic that I'm going to go out in the world and I'm just going to sit at bars and fun coffee shops and great cocktail lounges and write a little bit more out in public and just do some people watching. And oh man, I want to do that at Dexter's Diner so bad.
So bad.
So, do you want Dex to appear in the Kenobi series?
I don't, unless it's a great flashback. I don't need him to, but I'm dying to have him referenced. I'm dying to know a little bit more about this relationship, get some of our headcanon questions answered. But maybe that's who Camille's playing.
Yeah. I think that there'd definitely be, that'd be a big swing, and people would have a lot of opinions about it, since we've established this is a scene that people feel strongly about. I would certainly like a Dex-like character, if not Dex himself. Like, I think Kenobi has a network of people like this across the galaxy, especially after the Clone Wars, of, old buddies who he knows have their finger on the pulse of something. I would not be surprised to see any of those many wonderful actors that have been announced play some down-to-earth person that Kenobi could get information from.
Yeah.
If Dex appeared, I like the idea that Dex has had a million lives. He thought he was retiring with the diner. Then things got real bad on Coruscant, and Dex got out. So is Dex in a different situation, and would people accept that more if he went back to prospecting, you know? And Kenobi's making his way to face Vader, and he's hiding out on some desolate, awful moon down in some, actual like tunnel. And what do you know? There's Dex.
Well, what do you know? You found me, old Kenobi. Call me Ben. What? I knew a Ben once. Right.
Old Ben, that'd be a good name for a kid. So I'm not going to put any money on seeing Dex in the Kenobi series, but I think there'd be some way to do it. But if not, I definitely want to see and hear some more of Dex. Somewhere storytelling, definitely in plastic action figure and Lego form. So Ken, now that we've gone through it all, the seriousness of it, the fun of it, the debate of it, what's your summary of this scene? What is it about? Why do you like it?
This is about the value of wisdom over knowledge. Now, throwing knowledge out, you need to have it. It's how you use it. And it's key to the characters in Star Wars. It's key to the Jedi right now. This may be the heart of Attack of the Clones right here, right now. But no, seriously, it is about that. It is about the allies we seek, the information we gather, and who do we trust?
Yeah, well said. To me, repeating what you said, I think it is definitely about the value of wisdom over knowledge. That is just, concretely what it's about. That's the bit of insight that Kenobi gets to get his cool noir detective mission kickstarted. But I also think it really is about the Obi-Wan character. It's about what he values. It's about how he sees the galaxy. It's about the possibility of having friends, that Jedi are not just all isolated and serious, that they do have friends. They do have contact with the rest of the galaxy, and they should. I think it's about Obi-Wan thinking outside the box. It's yet another moment where he doesn't just trust what the analysis droids tell him. He thinks outside of the box and does something different. And perhaps more than anything, I think this scene is just a tribute to diners. It really is just a tribute of diners are really great, right? When they have this specific vibe of this, fun, friendly, maybe a little dirty place that has been there forever, but you can trust it. And you're so right. It just makes me want to go to a diner right now.
I really want to go. There's several choices. Soon enough, I'll hear Rock Around the Clock play on the jukebox while I have a club sandwich.
Exactly. Last thing, you name checked him or mentioned him, but I want to be sure to name check the great actor who did the voice for Dexter Jettster, Ron Falk, right?
Yeah, Ron Falk, Australian actor, passed away in 2016. And I did try to, for this episode today, I was trying to look up some information and not a lot of photos that I could find. I'm sure there should be some out there, but the one photo I found, that's him and two other guys in a movie. And you look at the picture and they're all older gentlemen. And you're like, if anyone in this picture voiced Dexter, it's this guy. And then you realize, correct, it's that guy. Big, round, happy, bushy, bearded face. And it looks and feels like Dexter.
Yeah, and just the choices, right? But you can get caught up in it all and forget that an actor made these choices that gave so much personality to this character. Love him, hate him, like him, tolerate him, whatever. He was given a ton of life by this actor.
Absolutely. So here's to you, Ron Falk. You've inspired our entire episode.
That's right. We tip our Jawa juices to you. Ken, do you want to let people know where they can find us?
It would be my pleasure. We are on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. Podcast available in a lot of different spots, including Anchor, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Amazon Music, and Spotify. Merch is available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/ForceCenter. You can follow me at Ken Napzok or go to my website, kennapzok.com, and try out the Empire Fund we're building over at the GPA.fund. Joseph.
Yeah, you can find me Twitter and Instagram at Joseph Scrimshaw. You can check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for all the other things I'm doing, including this week, the episode of my other podcast, Obsessed, is a discussion between myself and my wife, Sarah, about The Falcon and The Winter Soldier. So if you're interested in that, check it out. There is a link on my website at josephscrimshaw.com. But for now, for myself, for Ken, and most importantly for Hermione Bagua, this has been ForceCenter.